Welcome back to Any Recapped. Today we will cover the series, Dororo. Hope you all enjoy this recap. The show starts on a rainy day when a woman is giving birth to a child. Her husband rides to a temple, and as he enters, an older man addresses him by the name Daigo. He states that entering the halls of hell means casting off the gods to side with demons, and if he crosses this line, hell will surely await him. Daigo states that the path of Buddha doesn't exist and goes on to kill the older man. Before taking his last breath, the older man thanks Daigo for freeing him from this hell and suggests that he stays away from demons. Daigo calls upon the 12 demons to attain the powers he desires and offers anything of his in return for their help. Suddenly, a lightning bolt strikes the temple, and we are taken back to the woman giving birth. As she gives birth to a boy, lightning strikes the roof, breaking the Buddha statue inside. Daigo enters and asks to hold the boy, but sees a horrifying sight as the boy has no limbs, facial organs, or skin, yet he lives. Daigo laughs as this confirms demons are accepting his deal to aid him. He states that the boy wouldn't survive and sends him off. The mother begs him to let the child die in her arms, but Daigo refuses, stating that she must bear another child. Later, the old maid holds the newborn and walks through a cornfield. She is instructed to kill the boy, but sends him off in a boat, hoping someone will rescue him. Suddenly, a huge demon approaches and eats her alive. Nearby, a blind monk smells evil, and the demon attacks him, but he kills it in one blow. He then senses an aura coming from the boat, but lets the boat sail into obscurity. 16 years later, humans are at war, and a doctor named Chukai is shown adding prosthetics to the dead to pay respects. Somewhere else, a black-haired boy named Dororo is selling all kinds of items to the local villagers. He is approached by a group of men who hired him to look after their goods, which he stole to sell for himself. One of them threatens him, but he throws a pot at his face and runs away. As they follow him, a random kid nearly falling off is saved by a mysterious boy with a gray robe. On the other hand, the men are looking for Dororo, who throws coarse poop in their faces and runs off once more. He washes his hands at a river and is approached by a cute puppy. As he's about to feed the dog, the men find him again and hold the dog hostage. The group is beating Dororo to a pulp when they notice the same mysterious boy, Hakamaru, standing over them. He ignores them, and Dororo says he is looking at something else. Just then, a slimy demon comes out of a pile of garbage and eats the 3 men alive. Dororo, however, is rescued by the boy, who then proceeds to fight the demon. While fighting, he throws off his prosthetic arms and kills the demon. Dororo fetches his arms and attaches them back on. Suddenly, his mask falls off and skin starts to grow on his face. Nearby, Daigo notices a bolt of lightning hitting the temple. At his house, his second son Tahamaru catches turtle dough for his mother and goes off to cook it as she recalls her firstborn. Dororo follows Hakamaru as he walks into a river and catches some fish. Later, he starts a fire, cooks the fish for them, and wonders if Hakamaru can hear or see him. It is revealed that he was born blind, deaf, and mute, but could see the fire of the soul. Hakamaru can distinguish evil or danger by the color of their soul fire and possesses superhuman reflexes and strength. As the night falls, Dororo wakes up from a nightmare and tries conversing with Hakamaru. Getting nowhere, he falls asleep again. The morning comes and Dororo takes Hakamaru to a nearby village where there is a prize to hunt a demon. Upon reaching, a villager named Denkichi greets them and promises to reward them if they kill the demon. Denkichi reveals that their chief, Bandai, has injured her leg and is unable to move. He offers them food and shelter as a symbol of hospitality. They both rest in a barn at night, and Dororo wonders how the village makes so much money despite having a monster. Just then, a monster with a bell enters the barn. Dororo forces Hakamaru to fight it, but he doesn't budge. The monster walks off, and Denkichi shows up to inquire about the situation. The next day, Denkichi informs them that the chief wants to see them. At her residence, they are greeted by a bedridden Bandai who wanted to see the duo in person. Just then, Hakamaru senses evil and pulls his sword out. Dororo tries to stop him, telling him that she's human, and the villagers rush in to restrain him. They lock the duo in a storeroom, and there they are joined by the monk who explains that he came here to hunt a demon, but the villagers locked him up in his sleep. He approaches Hakamaru and states that he has seen him somewhere. He further explains how blind people visit differently compared to people with vision. They sense a demon, and Hakamaru pulls his sword out. Lights go out, and he attacks the demon who escapes from the well. They find a passage leading back to Bandai's residence through the well. They confront her, and she turns into a demon to eat them. She fails, and Denkichi arrives, helping her to escape. He reveals that he fed her travelers, so she doesn't eat the villagers. Bandai runs into the forest, but Hakamaru follows and kills her. The rest arrive and see the same bell monster standing close by. It sinks into the ground, revealing a huge sum of money. Denkichi reveals that they had no source of making money, so they let Bandai kill the travelers and looted their money. He further reveals that the Bell Monster is the first human Bandai ate, and he has been lurking as a ghost in this town ever since. Later, Hyakkimaru writes his name on the dirt, and the monk recalls that he is the same boy he sensed 16 years ago. A bearded man drags another man atop a hill, hanging him on a cross and torturing him. It is shown that the hill is full of crosses with dead people nailed to them. A woman runs in to stop them, but she also gets killed. Seeing this, the bearded man jumps off the cliff to kill himself. Somewhere else, a boy named Kaname is greeted by two older men who offer fresh vegetables to Jukai, who helps them. At his clinic, the boy gets a prosthetic arm for free, and he and his mother thank Jukai. Kaname reveals that he got a prosthetic leg from the doctor when he was a child and has volunteered to work here ever since. At night, he wakes up to see Jukai working all night long. Later, transporting logs, he notices a boy crying. He approaches them, and his mother reveals that a samurai accused him of stealing and cut his arm off. Kaname takes him to Jukai, who stops the bleeding and saves the boy's life. After dropping them off, Kaname returns with a completely different attitude and asks Jukai if he served under Lord Shiba. Jukai is the same bearded man who jumped off the cliff and reveals that he was rescued by a ship. He traveled to their country and learned to make prosthetics there so he could atone for his sins and die peacefully. Kaname reveals that his father was killed in the war against Lord Shiba, and we are shown a young Kaname crying over his dead father nailed to a cross. He grabs a knife to kill Jukai, but he begs him to wait until he's finished making a prosthetic for the boy that came earlier. Hearing this, he puts the knife down and leaves. Later, the boy and his mother thank them for the prosthetic arm and bid farewell. As they leave, Kaname throws off his prosthetic leg and leaves, and Jukai sheds a tear holding it. While walking, Jukai falls and wakes up near the shore. He sees a boat, and in it is a child. That is the same boy set off by the old maid, who is now rescued by the doctor. Next year, Daigo's second son, Tahomaru, is born, and the boy is in good shape, unlike last time, which fills him with joy. Some years later, we see Jukai taking care of the boy, and he names him Hyakkimaru. Later, a wolf attacks the boy, but he dodges it, and the doctor rescues him. At night, they both notice monsters lurking around, so Jukai hands him a bamboo rod for training the next day. Simultaneously, Tahomaru is training the servants to become strong like his father. Over the years, Hyakkimaru trains to become stronger and slays all kinds of monsters. Jukai reveals that the boy doesn't feel any pain and hence has no fear or hesitation towards killing. While slaying monsters, his right leg falls off and Jukai is stunned to see a brand new leg of flesh and bones grow on him. The next day, Jukai sends Hyakkimaru off and gives him an amulet he had when he found him in the boat. He hopes that it may help Hyakkimaru find his parents and hug him. Returning to the present, the monk states that if Hyakkimaru slays enough demons, he will eventually regain all his limbs and organs. He also states that someone made a deal with the demons to exchange the poor boy's body for their aid. Dororo is furious upon hearing this, and Hyakkimaru wakes up to feel the heat of the campfire. He steps into it, burning his foot, but Dororo pushes him out of the fire. A man hesitates to kill a group of people tied with ropes. He begs his master to let them go, but is forced to kill them. A woman named Ososhi sees Hyakkimaru standing in the rain, and she tells Dororo that he's listening to the melody of the rain. Dororo asks him what she was praying about, and she states that she prays for her brother Tanasukido to come home. They notice a man attacked by a nearby demon, and Hyakkimaru runs off to kill it. Dororo follows him to a pile of dead bodies, and Tanasuke comes out of hiding to attack Hyakkimaru. He states that his katana is a demon sword that thirsts for blood, and he has no control over his actions. He proceeds to attack Hyakkimaru and gives him a cut on his face. As Hyakkimaru is cornered by a cliffside, Tanasuke thrusts his katana into his leg, not knowing it's a prosthetic. Hyakkimaru throws his leg off the cliff along with the katana, leaving the man weaponless. He jumps off following the sword, and Dororo runs downhill to grab Hyakkimaru's leg. He finds it with the sword stuck to it, but as soon as he reaches to pull it out, he gets a strange feeling. Ososhi finds Tanasuke and takes her home while Hyakkimaru finds his leg, but the sword and Dororo are missing. Tanasuke wakes in his house, and we see Dororo forced by the demon katana to walk in a certain direction. He tries to fight against it but fails as Hyakkimaru watches over from a tree. Ososhi brings food for his brother and states how he made paper toys for her when she was a child. Suddenly, she realizes Tanasuke was responsible for the pile of dead bodies. Dororo walks into the village and is confronted by Hyakkimaru, who cannot differentiate Dororo from the evil aura coming out of the sword. Tanasuke recalls his past when he was ordered to kill an innocent man but begs his master to forgive him. His master hands him a katana and he beheads the innocent man. However, the katana doesn't cut through entirely because it is covered with rust. Tanasuke is forced to attack several times to finish the man off. His master reveals that this katana gets sharper when it comes in contact with blood, and Tanasuke, losing his senses, slays every prisoner in the camp. The katana wants more blood, leading to him killing everyone in the camp and walking off to find more victims. The flashback ends and we see Osushi begging his brother to stay while Hyakkimaru chases Dororo thinking he's a demon. Tanasuke pushes her down and she expresses her wishes to live a normal life with his brother. Tanasuke states that Nibiru, the demon katana, is calling upon him and leaves. Hyakkimaru manages to disarm Dororo, who then collapses with exhaustion. Tanasuke picks up the katana and attacks Hyakkimaru, and Osushi runs in to stop them, but to no avail. Hyakkimaru cuts him down, breaking Nibiru in half. As Osushi mourns her dead brother, Hyakkimaru regains his ability to listen. Hyakkimaru is now able to distinguish the sounds of all living beings, but he's in pain due to hearing so many sounds at once. Dororo ties a cloth around his ears, which makes him feel better. Just then, a bird-like monster attacks them, and Hyakkimaru struggles to fight against it due to loud sounds. Dororo guides him to the bird's location, but to no avail. Suddenly, the monk comes in and rescues the duo. Later, Dororo worries that Hyakkimaru is getting weaker due to his renowned sense of sound. He wants to go to a nearby village to get medicine, but the monk stops him, revealing that two armies of Daigo and Sakai villages are at a standoff and it's dangerous. The next day, Hyakkimaru hears a woman singing and follows it into the woods. The woman is revealed to be Mio collecting rocks in a lake. Hyakkimaru has a fever, so she takes him to her orphanage and gives the trio shelter. Take, one of the kids there, asks Mio to rest and bring food for Dororo. Later, Take reveals that Mio serves in Sakai's army camp at night, which pays enough for everyone to go by. The monk takes off to find a path to avoid the battlefield. A servant reveals to Lord Daigo that their land is drying up and they might need to cash in the reserves. At the orphanage, Dororo and the kids play and Mio walks in to check on Hyakkimaru. She promises to bring medicine and leaves for work, singing as usual. She returns the next day and Dororo asks her to sing for Hyakkimaru so he can get used to sounds. The monk returns and reveals that he found an abandoned house where they can take refuge. However, the land is claimed by a very strong demon. Hyakkimaru hears this and immediately walks off to slay it. Mio states that she will work overtime for both armies to stock up on supplies if they want to move out. She leaves to rest, and Dororo states that he will watch over her while Take tends to the rest of the kids. Hyakkimaru and the monk reach the abandoned house and take on the demon, but he gets his leg bitten off. Meanwhile, Dororo looks for Mio and finds out that she is working as a prostitute. Shocked and disappointed, Dororo heads back to the orphanage. On his way, he encounters the monk and an injured Hyakkimaru. The monk reveals that the boy has regained speech and can now talk. Maya returns and Take notices bruises on her body, which she tries to hide. She finds Hyakkimaru and tends to his wounds. Dororo notices her wounds and runs off in anger. Take finds him and he asks if he has ever joined Mio in the camps, which he hasn't. He reveals that their dream is to own a rice field so Mio can stop working at the camps. In the village, Tohomaru wants to join reinforcements against the Sakai clan, but Daigo refuses. He asks his mother to convince him, but to no avail. In anger, he rides off with his servants, who ask him to be polite to her, as she's kind to everyone. On his way, he suspects that his parents are hiding something from him and wants to find out. Hyakkimaru tries to get up using his sword, but trips and falls. Mio tends to him and asks him to speak since he got his voice back, but speaking hurts his ears, so he refuses. Mio sings for him, and Dororo and the monk watch in silence. The monk leaves once again and asks Dororo to take care of Hyakkimaru. Mio asks him to not look at her soul as she thinks it is filthy, but he holds her face, which surprises her. At the camp, Daigo's men prepare to attack the Sakai clan. Mio confronts Dororo about her job and states that she isn't ashamed of it and one's got to do anything to survive. Dororo reveals that he traveled a lot with his mother and this was the only job she didn't do, no matter how hungry they were, which got her killed. He then admires Mio for surviving and runs up to the orphanage. Later, he brings food to Hyakkimaru so he can regain his strength. Mio sings and thinks of rice fields to survive the horrors of her job. The next day, she asks Dororo to not let Hyakkimaru leave until he's healed while she shows off his fighting skills to them. Take sees the swords built into his hands and shows him a stash of swords he collected from the battlefield. Later that night, Dororo wakes up to find Hyakkimaru missing, who has returned to the Demon Lord for revenge. Maya returns from the job and Dororo informs him about the situation. As he fights the Demon Lord, rain falls over the Daigo village. But as soon as he slays it, the rain stops and the sun shines on the village. Dororo and Hyakkimaru and both walk back, and it is revealed that Hyakkimaru's leg has grown back. Just then, they notice smoke coming out of the orphanage, which has been raided and burned by Dago's men. They explain that they saw Mino entering their camp at night and Sakai's camp in the morning, and they disposed of her for being a spy. The man attacks Dororo, but Hyakkimaru comes to the rescue. Mayo is barely alive and sings the same song she sang to Hyakkimaru at the orphanage. He realizes that she's dying, and enraged, he brutally kills all of Dago's men. Dororo is terrified to witness this and stops him from killing a fleeing soldier. He hands Hyakkimaru a pouch of rice seeds Mio took from the soldiers and begs him to not turn into a demon. Later, they both bury the dead, and with sorrow on their face, take the road for their next journey. What does their future hold? Find out in the next part. For now, thank you for watching. Bye.